Today's video is sponsored by Onyx Off-Road. Use the link in the description or the coupon code MuddyBeards to get yourself 20% off your subscription service. When you start on a big project like this, it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the work that needs to get done. I just want to encourage all you guys out there to not give up, make a list, start with the small tasks, think about all the amazing adventures you'll have, and get it done. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we get started, I want to make it very clear because I had a lot of comments in the last video about what's happening to the TJ. So I want to make it clear that the TJ is not going away. Obviously it's going to need new axles, might end up a tube buggy, might end up with 1 tons, might end up with the LS, might end up with a TDI motor. I just don't know yet. But it will be coming back, and it will be coming back better than it was before, especially with the experience of 13, 14 years of building it the first time, building this S10, and then now going back and starting fresh with the TJ. I think I'm gonna have a fresh look and a lot better skill set in order to build that the way that I really want to. Now today's video, we're gonna be going over a few things. Mostly we're gonna be talking about lockers. We're gonna be installing a Grizzly locker into the rear 9-inch that's going into this. We're gonna be stripping the axle tube down and the axle down to bare metal, and we're gonna be removing the axle out of the S10, prepping it for the axle swap and the rear 3-link, and then we're going to be attempting to set up an approximate ride height. So let's see how far that we can get today. Okay, we got this cleaned up, the axle cleaned up. There was a spot right here that I plasma cut and it gouged into the housing. So we're going to have to weld this up and grind it smooth just to fill it in and make sure that it's not too thin in this one spot. Let's talk about lockers real quick. In my opinion, it comes down to cost versus performance. What is the cheapest locker you can get that is going to give me the most traction? That's really all I'm looking for. And a spool, that's what's gonna give it to you. So you can get spools, mini spools, as cheap as 50, 60 bucks, all the way up to like $150. And I've used every type of locker, spools, lunchbox drop-in lockers, mechanical lockers, limited slip, torsion, and clutch type, air lockers. The only one I've never used is an electronic locker. That's one that I have not actually used, but they work functionally the same as an air locker. So when you're choosing a locker, it really depends on 2 really important things. What size tire are you going to run is really going to depend on what type of locker you can run. Because if you're running bigger than a 35, most limited slips are not going to work for a 35 or bigger inch tire. And what is your goal with the vehicle? Is it an off-road only trailered vehicle, or is it your daily driver, or somewhere in between? All these factors are going to come into play when you're deciding what type of locker you're going to get. The current setup in the 9-inch right now is 539 gears with a Yukon aftermarket center section with a aluminum big bearing Daytona pinion housing as well. Now the Ford 9-inch, you can get virtually any of these types of lockers for it. I currently been running a spool in it, but I'm going to a on-road, off-road combination rather than a trailered vehicle. So I want to take that spool out and I'm going to switch it to something that is a little bit more streetable. So the locker we're going to be going with in the back of the S10, we're going to be switching out the spool for a mechanical locker. The Grizzly locker is just like a Detroit. Any full mechanical locker is going to engage 100% power to both axle shafts, and when you turn, it will unlock, allowing you to drive it a little bit more drivability on the street. And in the past, I've run these type of lockers. The only time I've really felt them engage and disengage is backing up around a corner. I noticed they click and clack, but moving forward in normal driving conditions, I never noticed the locker disengaging or engaging, and I never really heard it chirp around a corner, so it's definitely disengaging. And the reason I'm not going with a air locker in the rear is because if something happens in the system, a seal goes bad, I lose that locker, I'm always gonna have one locker. And that's the reason why I'm going with a mechanical locker, and it's a little bit cheaper. So I got this Grizzly locker on Amazon for $493, which is an absolute steal for this type of locker. Normally they're around the $800 range, so $493 is a great price. And so like I said before, cost versus performance, the cost of this and the performance I'm getting out of how much I paid for it is exactly the ballpark that I want to be in. Because this is going to be a street-driven vehicle, I want it to be comfortable. In the front, I'm going with a zip locker, so I will have to have onboard air, which is not a big deal because I still need to air up my tires and do all that fun stuff. So I'm gonna have onboard air anyways, but this is gonna allow me to unlock the front most of the time, and when I get onto an obstacle or get somewhere where I need that front locker, I just hit that button and it should go right up it. Now we talked a little bit about lockers and what the plan is for this build. Let's go ahead and tear down and install this Grizzly locker. Now before I start reassembling everything, I'm just going to inspect all my gears and all the bearings, inspect the pinion. Everything looks really good. The bearings look good, the fluid look good, and you can see right here, see that aluminum Daytona big bearing housing. And if you see right here, this notch I had to grind out of this housing because when you go to such a tall gear, the 538 gears, it tends to hit right here. So you want to have enough room here for that, and if there's any kind of deflection or anything, you don't want it to rub on this. So everything looks really good, so we're just going to reinstall our old bearings onto this and reassemble everything. So before I tear this rear axle out, I'm going to put this thing on jack stands and set the ride height that I think I want to kind of start with. I know my buddy Dan, his S10 on 40 straight axle, same exact tires that I have. He said his frame is flat all the way across at 24 inches from the ground, sitting at ride height. So his truck is a little bit taller than the way I want to build it. I want to try and build mine a little bit lower. So I'm going to start with the frame at 20 inches and then start tearing everything apart and mocking everything up at that height. And once I get it set up to that on the jack stands, I can always adjust it up and down before I make all the final decisions. These jack stands that I'm using are the new Harbor Freight Daytona ones. They are super cool. The handle's really nice. It has a pin that goes through it so it cannot fall. Like most of you, I enjoy good off-the-grid adventure. Having good navigation and GPS is a must in these situations. Onyx Off-Road has a new feature called Route Builder, You can now plan, save, and share routes, which is really cool, and it's a new feature on Onyx Off-Road. And if you want to start your free trial and get 20% off your subscription service, use the code MuddyBeards or just click the link in the description. Okay guys, that's about all we're going to be able to get done in this video. Now if you are really into trying to figure out how to set up a Ford 9-inch, I have a very detailed long video on how to completely set up your ring and pinion in a Ford 9-inch. I will leave that in the description. That was on Nate's rear third member on his TJ. Exact same setup as I have right here. And also I have a video on how to build this truss that I have, and I have a whole series on building the Ford 9-inch that I'm building right now when I put it into the TJ. So I'll leave both of those in the link if you want more details about how to build this axle and set up the differentials. If you guys have any comments, suggestions about this build, or anything you want to talk about in the comments, let me know. I know you've been doing that in the last video. I really appreciate it. And if you want to follow me on social media, I am at MuddyBeards4x4. We got a website, muddybeards4x4.com. We got shirts, stickers, stuff like that. Probably going to be weekly videos on this project for the next few months. So make sure you tune in, and we will see you in the next one.